want to run back immediately. The reason I started on this note is that life's interaction, life's process, the process of growth is continuous. The process of development is guided. The process of understanding, of self-awareness, comes with a purposeful goal, whether you create one for yourself or whether the world, life, creates one for you. If you like, you create for yourself. If you don't, life must create for you. And what better way to grow? The best way is that you create your goal, be purposeful about it. Else, you will jump around, make mistakes, learn sometimes blame others, and don't get to where you ought to be. Linking this with employability skills is like this. Every business owner, every organization, every workplace is made up of different people from different ethnic groups, different religions, different ideologies, different beliefs. In fact, I don't know if if you've remembered or taken into consideration that even the Christendom have its own pockets of religion. Let me put it that way. For instance, I'm a Catholic, and there's something my GM read to me one time that was funny. He said, though he's Christian, but he's a Catholic. You get that? So you have Catholicism, you have Protestantism, and in Protestantism, you also have different. Somebody will tell you, I'm a redeemer. Somebody who attends deeper life will say, my own is the best. This is just it. So look at all of those things that are capable of segregating us, and understand that there is no part of segregation in life's goal, because no man is an island. You cannot, if you were meant to pick people who you like to work with, then your goal may not be achieved, because that very person you don't like to work with, who you feel that you say your spirit doesn't connect with, might just be the best person to drive your goal. This is why workplace skills, employability skills, this is why they matter. So, in that note, I believe I have watered the ground to begin in this light. We'll be looking at Alice Scott's framework of communication. The first framework here for team communication is the physical aspect of communication. And this aspect begins with how you, the speaker, utilize your body language. How the speaker utilizes the body language, your body language. What about the speaker's facial expression? For instance, looking at all of you now, you are focusing on me, you are looking at me. There's a way I will look while communicating, and it will distract you. You will not like to listen to what I'm saying. Secondly, we have the use of language. If I use a bogus language, you will not understand what I'm saying. And once you don't understand what I'm saying, you don't get to follow through with what I actually. Now, we'll be seeing the third, which is the cognitive aspect. What is the content of what I'm saying? For instance, there are topics and subjects that are very or highly controversial. There are subjects and topics that you will not ordinarily believe in. And when I begin to speak on those topics, you see that you either begin to fight with agreement or disagreement in your heart. So, as a speaker now, or as someone who wants to be an active part of team communication, when you want to communicate to your team members, you try as much as possible to be professional. That is where professionalism comes into play. Now, we have mentioned two employability skills: professionalism, and the other which we have been talking about, communication. Okay? You realize that if we are to work together collaboratively, teamwork, the third skill, if we are to work, I hope you are seeing how this works. There is no, you cannot pride yourself to say, I am an efficient collaborator, a team player, without being a good communicator, without having quality emotional intelligence skills, without having, for instance, the reason I use quality emotional intelligence skills, you not say I am very empathetic, but I don't know self-management. Because when you have these skills, you must have them fully. The fourth is social and emotional, the social and emotional aspect. When you speak, do you listen? Can you be empathetic to others? When somebody behaves somehow, can you give the person a chance? For instance, there are people who, once the person just responds to you and that the way, in a manner you don't like, you're all pissed out. You're already angry. No, 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 no. I can't take this, I can't work with you. But you forget the other times that person has been there. One fine way of managing communication is that you have a good quality understanding, empathy. Put yourself in a person's shoe. There are certain times that people will say, if it was me, I would never behave like that. But the truth is that it's never been you. It's not you yet. When it's you, you will actually know how you behave. In fact, you shock yourself and you'll be amazed that the other party was strong. Now, we'll have a little way of showcasing how we all here have ability to communicate as a team. Okay? Now, we have a game we are going to play. And this game will help. Unfortunately, not all of us will be able to play, none of you will be able to play the game. So we're just going to do a selection. And that game will test your communication as well as your coordination. It will show everyone these things are physical. We can talk about the theoretical aspect of the framework of communications and so on, define communications and so on, and you end up with notes on your book and don't know how to apply them. So this is what we are going to do. This row, can you stand up please? This row. A hand of applause for them. Alright, so come to the middle. Just queue up in the middle here. No, just this row. This row. This row. No. Yeah. I think it's long enough. Is there space for others for this teacher? I think it's long enough. Can you turn face back to back? Exactly. Okay, you know what will happen? Go forward a bit, still go in a follow suit, go close to each other. Let us have more people join. I've taken from this aisle, let me take from this aisle. And I want ladies to join now. The ladies in the house, can we join? So that you not all be guys. Ladies, just come join, just find yourself. Sandwich yourself between any of the row, okay? But you know a lady. Alright. So as we are standing here, this is what will happen. I will, in fact, the moderator will give you a note, something on a note, the rest. So what you do is that you understand what that word or sentence is saying, right? You understand what the sentence is saying. She will tell you, she will show you, you will see it. Okay? Once you see it, you understand it, you let her know you've understood it. So you tap in, you will turn and face her. Okay? Then she will describe to you. Once she describes to you, you will tap the person in front of you. You will turn face him. He will describe to you. You will touch the person in front of you to turn face you. She will describe to you, and that is how it goes. Let me keep explaining. You will tap her, right, and explain, act what she acted to you, to her. She will act it to him, and you to him, you to him, you to him, and Fatima, you'll be you'll be the one to cap it all up. Yeah? You will now describe what it described to you. Okay? So while somebody is describing, nobody look back. Okay? Just face front and be religious about it. Okay? So now, this is a little bit space. Fatima, a little forward a little bit. Yes, yes. Okay. So now, please, those of us not actively involved in the game, let us watch and understand and see the trend, what goes around. Okay? Let's begin. Are we watching? Let's watch. Do you understand what she's trying to tell you? Even if you don't understand, just pick what you've gotten, tap the person in front of you, and demonstrate to her too. All right. Okay. Demonstrate it to the other person. Demonstrate it to the other person. You understand what you do? Okay, what do you mean? What do you think is it? Okay. Now, what were you trying to do? Okay, all of us turn. Let's watch what she did, what she passed across. So that is what she did. All right. So what were you trying to tell? I fell from a bicycle this morning. So you understood the bicycle. Bicycle got to you. What got to you? Nothing got to you. What got to you? Some. All right. What got to you? Dancing got to you. Okay. What about you? What got to you? Someone dancing. It got to you. Yeah. Okay. Dancing. That's what got to you. Dancing at the back. So, Aja, dancing. Okay. So, from falling from a bike this morning to dancing. That is awesome. That is wonderful. So, let's go back to our seat. So, what we are seeing now, laid before us is something that is practical, something that is factual and actual. Sometimes, if we like, we can try another aspect using words, and you will see. Can we try something now using words? Now, let us have some new. If you are not involved in this game, can we come out? If you are not involved, let's come out. Those that were not involved in this first game. Yes, anybody that was not involved, you can come out. So I will have Miss Emanuela come out too. So you back the same way, you face the same way they face. So Miss Emanuela will write something on a piece of paper. I want it very generic. Write something on a piece of paper. Miss Emanuela will whisper it to the ear, whisper it to your name, to Oluwaseun. Oluwaseun will whisper it to Stephen, Stephen to EJ to Daniel to Tola to Dumo to Michael to, and Christopher will tell us all what reached him. All right. Are we ready? All right, Mr. Manuela. You can read it to his hearing so that nothing is missed. Okay? Only his hearing. So can I do it? No. Just say what you see, once you can remember. Just know that wrong message. Tell us what reached you. He said he's going to get married to a lady in the village next week. He's going to get married to. He's going to get married to a beautiful lady in a village next week. So what did you pass across?
I'm going to get married to a beautiful girl in the villa next week.
In the villa next week. What got you?
That's what I said.
Okay. Same thing.
Like not possible.
I said villa next week.
Okay.
Said village.
So you said village, right? Okay, we are still in the village. Okay, let's have our seat. So communication is a crucial part of team performance. It's a crucial part of everyday performance at work. These two scenarios we just played out now just showed us that communication is not just about what is said, but what is heard. Right? That is true. It's not also just about what comes out of the mouth, but also what is described. Because sometimes we might be talking, but our body language is confuses what comes. Do we follow? Yes. So to be an integral part of a functioning team, an integral part of any working working organization, you have to be able to clearly distinguish yourself as being able to listen, which is part of communication, being able to speak, and being able to be clarified. For instance, the person who say he's getting married in a village could have clarified, do you mean village or villa? And we will know where the villa and the village mixed from. Anyway, villa could mean the slang for village. All right. So teamwork, you see, all of these things, they are if kind of synergistical systems. You can't be a good communicator without being a good team player. You can't be a good team player if you lack emotional intelligence. You can't be a productive employee if you lack any of the soft skills. For instance, you can't be a critical thinker if you don't have emotional intelligence. Everybody will piss you off. When people piss you off, you can't calm down and think critically. You can't make decisions. So you see how this thing works. You cannot say I'm a good team player, but you are not a decision. You can't make decisions. You can't say you have good emotional intelligence without being a good communicator. All of these things work together to form. That is why the coinage employability skills. Now, there's something I would like us to do this morning. In teamwork, developing teamwork as an employability skill, I want to look at 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 4. Right? Now, I'm sorry, I apologize to those who are not Christian and who might not be conversant with that scripture, right? But I adapted it to give a point out. Now, we'll begin with this. As in one physical body, we have many parts. In every organization, there are different departments. In each department, there are teams. Your function is unique to you. There are no two people who have your job role in your organization. True of us. Those of you who are working right now, you have realized that even if you have in administration of organizations that have large organizations that have huge departments, you see, in administration you have the admin, the admin officer, maybe officer 1, officer 2, 3, or officer admin officer 2. You have principal admin officer, chief admin officer, admin director. You understand? All of you in that department have different job roles. But that department is called a department because of that one body. Every team that you form in your organization is an integral part of the organization as a whole. When one team fails, the organization fails. And if a team becomes useless, then there is no use of that team in the organization, isn't it? All right. So, and all of these parts do not have the same functions of use. This is what we've just described. So, we, numerous as we are one body in goal. Every organization has its goal. If I ask us now, those of you working and ask, what is the mission of your organization? Can anybody remember the mission of the organization? What is the motto of your organization? Anybody? I've seen some people coughing. First cough. What is the vision of the organization? You want to say something?
Yeah,
Okay, the vision, vision, mission, or oh, one special. Okay, now from that mission, vision, and everything means that you have a clear understanding of your organization goal. So it is easy to adapt your goal to the organization. And with that clear understanding, you see that what drives you with that understanding will be different from what drives the organization. This is why some people do not have a good, fair hearing during interviews. For instance, you applied for to an organization for a job, and you sit there. You don't have a single clue what the organization does or what your job role will be. So how then will you know what your contribution will be? how then will you understand where you can come in to make a difference? Do we get the point? We understand that? So that is just that. And individually, we are part of one another. That is, we are mutually dependent on one another. For me to shine as a team player, I need my other team to help me shine. For my teammates to shine, I need to help my teammates shine. That is why when you are being celebrated, maybe as the best staff, the most creative staff, and stuff like that, it is not right for you to hit your chest, I did it. It is right to say, we did it. Because without the support and collaboration of your colleagues, you wouldn't be able to be that productive. You won't be able to do that. It's an understanding I would like us to have. Having faculties, talents, and qualities, I'm talking about gifts here, that differ according to the grace given to us. The grace I'm pointing in, taking it from our job roles. According to that grace given to us, I'm looking at a job role. According to your job role, your talents fit, your qualities fit, and everything. So you are your best at that you do. Let us use them according to the portion of our faith. You see, there was a time our GM shared a video with us, and the video is a video of the Mercedes CEO entering a bulletproof Mercedes, and it was fired up. And if somebody asks you now, can you have faith in the organization you work with? Do you have a solid faith in the organization you work with? Most times, certainly, some people will not have that because one, they don't understand the inner working. What is the goal? What is the faith in the goal? When you don't know the faith, you don't know the goal, you can't have faith in something you are not aware of. You don't know. Can you? He whose gift is practical service, let him give himself to serving. He who teaches, to his teaching. He who encourages, to his encouragement. He who contributes, let him do it in simplicity and liberality. When you contribute in a team, do it. Okay, let me just create this scenario for you. When you answer question in a team, for instance, you answer, you must not necessarily do the before people know you mean the, right? You are saying, so you are contributing something, and you feel like a lot of you should have known it that. Even without doing, people know that you mean that. And when you want to contribute again, and everybody's body language will say, oh, Vasabi have come. So you see that if you want to contribute and be a part of it, do it as simple as possible. Without that simplicity, when somebody challenges your contribution, wants to get clarity, you feel challenged personally. Because you have not been able to differentiate your contributions from yourself, to isolate it from yourself. You feel like, why is it that this person doesn't always like my contribution? Is it that the person doesn't like me? So you don't get to differentiate it. He who helps and superintends with zeal and singleness of mind. There is no functioning team any team that you see lacking in function, failing to function properly, is a team that don't have each other helping, people helping themselves, team members helping themselves. In fact, sometimes you might have an unofficial team in an official setting. This is it. You come to somebody to brainstorm, or a group of your friends, your colleagues to brainstorm on something, how the company can go forward. You find out that before you know it, you are a team, but there is no name to your team. You help each other out. You say, okay, now how do we get this done? And you go and tell your boss, this way and this, we discuss about this, and we feel this is the best way to go. And every time you go about with those kinds of discussions and contributions, what you have succeeded in doing is to create a team, an unofficial team in an official setting. That is to show your continuous contribution to team building. He who collaborates with genuine cheerfulness and joyful eagerness. Now, love one another with brotherly affection as members of one family. Most, you go to work around maybe 8, 8:30, you close around 4 or 5, right? Most of your time you spend at work. And what makes workplace toxic is the fact that you cannot you cannot stand the behavior of your colleagues. You just, oh God, these people, let me just go. When you get home, you are tired, you do 1 or 2, you rest and sleep. You still meet that person. You will still meet, and that person will forcefully become your family at work. So we have to be able to have these as people who are working and searching for a better future or better work. We have to be able to understand that the most time we spend it out. So we have to. For instance, this is kind of simple to think about it. When you think that you are part of him at work, you will let your guard down, listen, and want him to be a part of you. It's something like this. If I don't want you, you struggle to want me. If I want you, even when you are difficult, you find that sometimes when you reflect, you blame yourself for not doing well, isn't it? When you show a hand to someone, you want to take my hand. When you show a hand, give a hand to someone, even when the person refuses to take it, the person might think about it to want to take it. We have that softness in us as humans, no matter how hard our hearts are. So don't be all afraid to be the first person to give the hand. In fact, that is what makes you strong. Be the first to give the hand. And that is what makes you special, knowing that you are learned or learned. Give precedence and honor to one another is just what I just said. That is just that about it. So I want to know, as you have listened here, you see, Mike talked about this when I was thinking about this course. When we were looking at ways to come out with the best way to deliver this course to you. What I thought was this, that to give you something different, like a wake-up call, to have your mind reflected within you, to see how you can adapt to knowledge you receive. Because to understand that every day is a lesson. For instance, I do this. I learned this from my general manager. When I first started here, he told me something. He said, I like us to be in one page. And I recall that every time I come to work and I think about something, and I come and say, sir, I thought this thing had happened this day, I thought about it this way. He will say, yes, I was thinking about it too. And I see the joy in his face. Let me tell you something. Let me share something with you. The truth is that when you understand your journey, have faith in your goal, you realize that the goal of where you walk is not so different from your own personal goal. When they are far apart, you don't actually have how to gain. You don't gain properly. But when you know the goal and find a way to collaborate, to bring them together, you find out that even while working, I've heard people say, I am working, I don't have time. They are whining. When you whine and whine and whine, complain, you don't get to maximize the potential open to you. Now, let's look at the last part of this course, negotiations. When you open your hearts to all of these things, you realize that every relationship, there's negotiation going on everywhere. Negotiations in relationships, in teams, negotiations in markets and everything. Where two or more parties make collective choices or no choice at all. For instance, when you can meet someone, you stand before someone and you negotiate something out. Let me use this instance. Let's say Mr. Kelvin. Mr. Kelvin is my colleague, and something happened. I want to negotiate something with Mr. Kelvin. Let's say you realize that maybe conflict resolution, for instance. You realize that negotiations are a crucial part of conflict resolutions. Am I getting? If I was preaching, it's an amen. Negotiation is a crucial part because if you are resolving conflict and I maintain that I am correct and you maintain you are correct, the conflict might not be resolved. But I usually think of it this way, that there is an undertone to everything that happens. I might agree whether or not I'm wrong, I might take the blame. But I have not lost. Because what I see might be the overall good of our relationship, the overall good of our goal that we pursue together, our joint effort in making sure something works, and understanding where I failed in that relationship. When I agree I'm wrong, and you are happy that you were right, our relationship continues. I have learned, but you also have the opportunity to learn. You might think the normal human ego will say, I will not let you win. I must win, you must win. So that is when you go to negotiation cases, you have your win-loss scenario. You have your win-loss scenario now in negotiation scenarios. In the win-loss scenario, the other party might not have gotten exactly what they want to negotiate for. But one party will get exactly what they negotiate for. When it comes to conflict resolution, you don't necessarily lose when you lose. You might win by losing. Okay? The next scenario, we have a win-win scenario. The win-win scenario is when the two negotiation parties have been able to achieve their goal of negotiations. We have the lose-lose scenario when two parties refuse to come to an agreement. We realize it's also negotiation when negotiation has happened, even if two parties refuse to come to agreement. To prepare for negotiation, one has to know what you are negotiating for. The first thing you do is to develop your negotiation goals. What is the aim, the goal of this negotiation? What is the extent you can go? For instance, let me use an instance now. There was a time someone came to me and said he wanted to start a lab and requested that I consult for the lab. Okay, and I gave my deal, and he said that what if I continue consulting and had a part of become a shareholder of the company. And he told me that he was ready to part with 5%. So I told him that the lab business is not necessarily a very lucrative business. So in a nutshell, what I wanted was not what he wanted, right? He said 5%, I wanted something more and spread across a long-term plan. Because from my understanding about it, I know that is not necessary. In fact, the first few years to have a diagnostic lab is a very tricky year. You pay a lot of fees that the money you generate will not even be able to pay. Every lab you see, for instance, in Amag, pays bills to Human and Health Services in Amag, pays the normal advert rates. You pay rent, you pay every other thing, you buy all the materials, and the materials you use in the lab expires. You find out that you need much more collaboration to get something out. So, in a nutshell, the goal for his negotiation was that he needed somebody to give that expert advice, right? That was where his goal ended. And when I started giving advice and telling him that it needs a long term, his goal did not take that into consideration. And so it was a lose-lose scenario. I didn't get part of the negotiation as I wanted, what I wanted. He also did not achieve what he wanted. So now we are going to see what determines how a goal is formed. The second part helps you to identify that goal. The second part is to identify your partner and your ZOPA. Your partner here is your best alternative to a negotiation agreement. So we take that one after the other. If a negotiation fails, peradventure, in developing a goal, you say, if I don't have number one, I should be able to have number two. If I don't have number two, number three is the best I could go. That is your best alternative. And when we get to understand it, to discuss it better, you get to understand what I'm saying. The zone of possible agreements is a zone that highlights your preferred choice and your best alternative choice. Now let's take a look at this and discuss this. Let's discuss this. Let's look at it this way, using from a seller's perspective and a buyer's perspective. You want to buy something from someone. The one who sells is the seller, obviously, and you are a buyer. The seller, let's use a common listing. You go to buy a phone. You've already done window shopping, right? And you know that the phone is about 90,000. And you go to the shop, and the seller tells you this phone is 105,000. Because the reason you did window shopping is so that you form your own buyer's settlement range. Because you are buying. You want to form your buyer's settlement range. You say, if this thing goes for 90,000 as I've asked, that means I should be able to buy it. In your mind, you want to bargain for around 89,000. It will be a good buy, isn't it? It will be a good buy. So you go now, and the person tells you it's 5,000. You say, it will not take 80K. The reason why the seller will not just give you is because the seller started from 95,000, knowing that yes, if Mugu, before Mugu, he will gain. Exactly. Now, and he now knows that probably it's around 90,000. But if he tells you 90,000, you will feel like this is the normal thing. You won't feel like it's about 80-something thousand. So if the seller did not take into consideration the cost he bought it, they'll say, for instance, some of them will give you their book. I don't even buy it like that. See, sometimes I used to wonder, I said, who wrote the book for you? You could write any price you want to write on that book. You come and show me a book that's 60. Okay, even that one, I don't buy it. Yeah. Anyway, so now, that from 95,000 to 90,000 is the seller settlement range. Your own settlement range will be from probably 85,000 to the 90,000 which you have asked. Within that settlement range, you have your zone of possible agreement that you will beat your chest and say it was a good buy. That zone of possible agreement will be starting from the seller's worst case, because the seller won't want to actually sell it for 90,000, right? They want to make some money on it. That is the seller's worst case. Now, the buyer's worst case, between the seller's worst case and the buyer's worst case is your zone of possible agreement. Between 90,000 for the seller's the worst case, and your own 90,000 for your worst case. Because you say worst, I'll buy 90,000. Is that not what you say? When you're going to buy worst, I'll buy 90,000. So that is your own worst case, and the seller's worst case. So that is it with saying negotiating. That's what happens with negotiating salaries, for instance. I see some lot of times I've been reading about it, and sometimes you ask people this and say, "What is your price?" What you go for an interview and somebody say, "What is your desired salary range?" And the thing written all over the web is the organization will have the policy that takes care of salary. The organization has the policy. They have the policy. Their policy, your policy. No, it's their policy. And some interviewer will insist, what is your range? And I see the fear there to actually state a range for some people is that they might not employ. But let me tell you something. If you are valuable, if you are skilled, the cost will be negotiated. If you are coming to add value and they have spoken to you and see the value you hold, they will negotiate. Because who will you blame in this scenario, in this situation? You start the job, and your job can't take you from where you stay. You can't even take care of your immediate needs, your transport and stuff. And you start complaining at work and start saying, I beg, I will not kill myself. I beg, I this. Now, whatever value you brought has been diminished by your inability to meet up. Have you seen that test? So now, imagine you are leaving that organization now to another organization. You want reference, isn't it? And when they call you the organization, you won't be there. You won't be there to explain this because they didn't pay you, your pay could not meet your need. Would you be there? When decisions are made, you won't be there. So it is best that you calculate what it will take you to satisfy your immediate need. You are working to earn. And if that is not the case, you tell the person, and this is what made me come to this agreement. I stay here for transport to cost me it. I need it. I need this, I need that. So your offering will not be able to take care of my immediate needs. And if it doesn't take care of my immediate needs, I won't be able to perform maximally. For that person now, the person has not just gotten a range. The interviewer has not just gotten a range, but has gotten an understanding that you are, what is it called, a critical thinker. That you think before making decisions. And that in the long run, if I can get someone like this person will be able to be analytical in thinking. The person will handle my business the same way he or she handles themselves. Because if I could collect any amount, I could also sell any amount. Isn't it? If I could, I think I'm worth 20,000. Then the person hiring me, I'll just every other thing I'll be thinking, this one don't look at it, this one not 1,000 like this, this one not 2,500 like this. So organization want to see that commitment from every angle of negotiations. So this is where we'll be stopping and I hope that you've gained some lessons. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Can we give him another round of applause? So before I go any further, I would like to test your memory skills. So who here can tell me the full meaning of Batna and Zoba? partner